Hey guys, and welcome back to Brexit. Brexit England, Northern Ireland, and Eastern Europe. And in Brexit England, people are pawning their goods to pay for gas, electric, and food. And obviously other household stuff. But imagine that's where we are in this country, Great Britain, in 2022, that people have to pawn their PlayStations, or they have to pawn their TV, they have to pawn their mobile phone, they have to pawn their Beats headphones. They're having to pawn their jewelry. I know that pawn shops have always been there. And, people have always been pawning stuff to pay for this type of stuff. But it has never been on this type of scale before. On this type of scale is just unbelievable on this type of scale. But, they've basically just doubled our living costs. Just, in such a short space of time, they've just doubled. Just, when you're talking about a 200% rise on our utility costs, because that just means that everything else, everywhere else, has to go up as well. It's something like £2.75 for a bag of chips, 2 potatoes, because they're fried. Two potatoes, about £2.75. You have to wonder how these places are going to survive, because what's coming next? The £4 bag of chips. So you have to wonder, yeah. If you see me keep looking up here, it's because I'm watching the football on the big ass TV that's above me, yeah. So, and obviously the England are playing right now, so but yeah. So it's just amazing that these people have just done this, and they're just barefaced with it. They just start, and they don't care. You know what really gets me is, today's Monday, and I'm going to see how much times this week, right, that I can get Jeremy Corbyn into this type of conversation. Right, because I can guarantee you that this wouldn't be happening to us under Jeremy Corbyn. They've told us that he would take us back to the 1970s. Well, they've gone two decades better than that, and not 2 decades. Because if they're taking us back to the 90s, that would have been, but back to the 50s. In America, a lot of like I've heard Trump saying that the 1950s is where he would like to see America, that type of society, and like I just look at all the black people that's behind, because I'm thinking to myself, do these guys know about the Negro Leagues? Do they know that they couldn't have voted? They wouldn't have been able to vote, or would they? They might have been, actually. They might have been able to vote. Yeah, I think they would have been able to vote. But their votes would have been like, I think black people's votes wasn't counted as a whole vote. It was I think under like Jim Crow or something like that. It wasn't counted as a whole. It was counted as like 2/3 or something like that of a vote. So I know it's some bullshit like that. Well, I'm sure I've heard something like that from back in the day. Anyway, what are talking about that for? Right. But so look, we're talking about like the cost of living in this country, right? What these people have done, what this has really kicked in from Boris Johnson, right? Boris Johnson, Liz Truss wasn't even in long enough to really. Liz Truss, she was, the short space of time that she was in, she done £50 billion worth of damage, but this really started with Boris Johnson, right? Just a doubling of the fuel costs, just like that. Double it. Don't worry about that. Because these people, they're all conservatives. They've all got money in the bank, right? And remember, you guys remember, yeah, as well, that that all of our MPs and all of the royals and a lot of the lords and all that, they all live off of socialism. They live off of socialism, while telling you, Jeremy Corbyn, socialism bad, terrible. Right, you don't want to have that John McDonnell. You don't want a redistribution of wealth. Why would you want a redistribution of wealth? Why would you, as a working class or a person who is not well off, why would you want a redistribution of wealth? That's just England have got to ahead 1-0. That's just stupid. That doesn't make any sense. That you would want. Why would you want that? It's like human rights. A lot of people in this country think that the best thing we can do is leave the European Court of Human Rights. Say, well, why? Is it because you're not human? Why you would want to do that? But these people, they're so... Look, this country, yeah, has gone from... It's gone from being, yeah, a quite decent place, right? Back... We'd have to go back before, we'd have to go back like 12 years, right? You'd have to go back to probably 2008, right, where it could be the last time that this country, I would describe this country as like as more or less a decent place to live. That's where I'd go back to, right? That's for me, and that's for me as a black man, right? Because from since then, right, this country's got it's got so much more racist, just progressively so much more racist along the way, and a lot of that, yeah, has been the reason why these people who should be nowhere near politics, right? So a lot of the reason why it's a beautiful header. So a lot of the reason why these people should not be allowed, yeah, anywhere near power. Because there's so much of them, right, who are arguing the point, right, that things aren't as bad as we can see they actually are. And I don't know, I don't understand how, but if you're looking at like a lot of the Tories, when you look at these guys, I don't even know how they're still in politics. I don't even know how people, well, I didn't know how people voted for them in the first place. But just considering what they've done to this country right now, where people are having to pawn their goods to pay for gas, electric, household goods, it's a really, really sad situation that this country is in this position after 12 years of the Tories. But as I say, the Tories are there for rich people. So they look at everybody. Well, if you didn't have the decency to be born to rich parents, that's your fault. Okay? What you should have done, you should have been born to rich parents, and then you wouldn't have to pawn your stuff, would you? And welcome back to By Any Means Necessary. Thank you so much for all your messages sent me, and a special thanks here to everyone who signed up to my channel. I feel so blessed with so much people that signed up, so thank you so much for that. I'll go through all your messages. I'll answer as many as I can, but I will like all the messages for definite. And it seems we'll go straight over to America, because it seems like a special counsel will take over the probe into Donald Trump. With regards to the 6th of January and like the documents in Mar-a-Lago. Donald Trump is still claiming that those documents are his, right? And in the American Constitution it says, right, that if you try an insurrection or a coup or anything like that, that you can't stand to be the president again, or to be any type of I don't even know how Marjorie Taylor Greene. I've got a story about her. I don't even know how Marjorie Taylor Greene as well. I have no clue, right? Because they tried to do that to her to stop her from to getting back into Congress. They said, you know what, she had part to do with the insurrection, and she did. She had a lot to do with it. She had a lot to do with the planning of it, and then afterwards, right, she had a lot to do with right now she's talking about that she wants to impeach Joe Biden because of his treatment towards the people from the 6th of January. You say, well, is it the one which ones? The ones that was beating the police officers with flagpoles, or the ones who were spraying them with bear spray, the ones who was whacking them up with a chair? The one who was beating him with a hockey stick, the one who, the guys who picked up the barrier and was jabbing it. I mean, the one who got squeezed up in the door. I mean, which one of those, right? Insurrectionists, right? Are they saying that she wants to take Joe Biden? Anyway, right? So anyway, Donald Trump and his whole Mar-a-Lago thing and the 6th of January probe, right? And we've got Donald Trump is allowed back on Twitter. I believe I don't think he's tweeted already, because if he does tweet, right, that's going to completely ruin Truth Social. absolutely destroys Truth Social if Donald Trump goes back on there and starts tweeting. Because you see, you got to understand, yeah, that on there they can upset the libs, but you can't upset the libs on Truth Social because they're not on there. so the point is, I can't see any libs beyond, being on there for them to go and, so. So Donald Trump at some stage will have to go back onto Twitter. He's going to have to go back on there, and then the world can look forward to Kofifi. Kanye West has announced. Oh, he's been allowed back on Twitter too. Kanye West has announced that he will be running to be the president of the United States of America. Should we just leave that story there? Or should we have a think about that? Because now, I think, yeah, that even black Republicans, right, are going to be like this. It's too much, mate. Are you having a laugh? Right? We know the Jewish community, right, is never ever going to vote for Kanye West to become the president. I mean, is anybody going to vote for this crazy fool to become the president? Probably not. Marjorie Taylor Greene, Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, I should say, or America's answer to Nadine Dorries, just on with a big glass of whiskey, 2 ecstasy pills, right, and 4 lines of cocaine and weed. Right? Marjorie Taylor Greene, right, has compared the invasion of Ukraine to asylum seekers trying to get into America. Just, where'd you go? I mean, she said that 82. It's only 82,000 Russians that have invaded the Ukraine, and she said that. But Joe Biden, and she said that, but why is it that Joe Biden wants to secure Ukraine's borders, but he won't secure his own borders? I like to tie stories. I like to tie things together. Weird things, just weird shit. I like to tie together, right? Like having, maybe having ice cream on a pizza. I don't think that's going to work somehow. I should just went for cornflakes on a pizza, or maybe sugar puffs on a pizza. Now you're talking, right? But seriously, right? I just don't understand. This woman is crazy. She's. I think that Kanye West should give her his meds. That's probably what should happen. That would be the best thing if someone gave her some meds for her to take, because she is really just 2-0 England. She's really just off her head. Absolutely off her head. And reparations for climate change. Another one of my favourite stories, because these countries have now said, oh yes, we're going to give reparations for, well, they're not calling it reparations because that's if they done that, oh beautiful girl, if they done that, it would be they said reparations because the right wing don't like that word, they hate that word, right? But the other countries have agreed to put a fund aside for the developing countries that we have, because remember, the industrialization, we went for a long time ago, so some countries are literally going through that now. But I studied the other day that said, us over here, yeah, our carbon footprint, right, is, I'm sure it was 4 or 5 times more than a person in China. Than a Chinese, it's 4 or 5 times more our carbon footprint in this country, right? That's each person. When you break it down, so that's each person, right? Which is the reason, right, why they keep on talking about China, yeah, polluting, right? But when it comes down to it, yeah, they only pollute slightly less than we do when you look at how much people they've got compared to us. Because as I said, we're 4-5 times more, yeah, in our carbon footprint. But that doesn't necessarily mean that your carbon footprint. They just like add up how much people in the country, and that's how they break it down, right? So when you're talking about people who take 6 or 7 flights a month, right? Or they they're taking flights every month. They're flying at 5, 6, 7 times. So all of that's counted, and then you 3-0, and then you might have some people who have got 5 or 6 vehicles, so they're polluted. So they could be polluted a lot more, So so it's all things like that for us. For us over here, it's all things like that. So so when they're talking about because they keep on mentioning China all the time. Oh, China. When it comes down to but for me, it's like, well, I don't know. We've got I think that we should be paying reparations for all these type of things. But then again, I think they should be paying reparations for slavery. So, fans have talk about the footy. But fans have been banned from drinking alcohol in stadiums. So you think it's all sober? It is now. Yeah, so no, but I mean, you would have seen this coming. Surely you could have seen this coming, right? And it's not as if to say, right, because these things wouldn't be a problem for the Qataris, because the Qataris would just pay you off. They'd be like, Budweiser can say, well, we're taking you to court because we're not allowed to sell bloody alcohol inside the stadium. The Qataris would just be like, well, how much are you suing us for? They say, well, I think they paid something like $60 million to hold to be exclusive Budweiser, yeah. So they say, well, 80 million. Qataris was like, is that it? Yeah, we'll just take that. I just take that. And the Qataris will just pay them off. Wouldn't even bother. So you should have been able to see that coming, right? And then we've got like security guard. You've got a lot of people talking, saying, oh, talk about the conditions that the migrant workers are in over there. Because obviously, we've got the massive thing with the LGBTQ plus community, right? So we've got there's a lot about them. And obviously, you've got to talk about the conditions for the migrant workers, which is something, because, before you gave Qatar this World Cup, right, you had so much power to address all these things, because you could have said, well, listen, if you want the World Cup, then you're going to have to change your whole policy towards gay rights. You're going to change your policy towards human rights as well. Right? It's quite simple, very simple, right? If you say every single worker that works on your stadiums over there must be paid a European minimum wage, because right now the security guards in the stadium being paid 39 cents an hour. So they know that all these things they could have put in place. And if the Qataris wanted to have the World Cup, because you want Europeans to come and play in your country, well, this is what it takes. They say, well, this is what it takes. This is what you have to do. If you're not prepared to do that, then unfortunately you're not going to get the World Cup. That would for me be the easiest thing for them to have done. Afterwards, all this virtual signalling nonsense, right? Especially when in this country, Qatar owns more than 4,000 buildings. Right, and then you've got this fool. You've got the work must be the world's biggest fool, right? Joe Lycett. He's got to be because apparently he burnt £10,000 yesterday for the Friday. So Sunday. So he burnt £10,000. And if that is true, if he is actually shredded £10,000, then this guy is the world's biggest idiot. And I have the virtue signal because I think that about every single person who has ever destroyed money to make a point. If you've destroyed money to make a point, I think you're an arse. I think Boris Johnson was one of the biggest clowns on this earth for burning a £50 note in front of a homeless person. I think you've got to be stupid, ignorant, right? And just a real arsehole to do something like that. Burn a £50 note in front of a human person. I mean, you've got to be some low life to do that. You know, same with KLF. Was it KLF? They burnt £1 million. Was it burnt £1 million? Was it? I think. I'm sure that's what I'm sure. You know, I think they're idiots as well. So, you know, Joe Lycett trying to make a point to David Beckham. He's got no point to make to David Beckham. I mean, the only point that Joe Lycett has made here, what I don't think that people seem to understand, right, is this has got him so much advertising. Right, for his failing career, this right here has got him so much more advertising because he's all over the place. I mean, you've got people talking about all over the radio, you've got it all over the news. Now, for his sake, I really hope, right, that it was like, he just says, well, you know what, actually, it wasn't like real money. It was just like a £20 note wrapped around a load of paper. And even shredding a £20 note, I think you're a fucking jackass, right? So the best way you could say, well, actually, I committed a real criminal offence. I photocopied a £20 note and put one at the top and one at the bottom, and then just had just had a load of like newspaper or whatever stacked, so it looked like it was money. Now, if he's done that, fair enough. He comes out and says, well, that's what he done, fair enough. Right? But, it's illegal to destroy money as well. So I hope that the police go around and arrest his ass and throw his ass in prison because he's an arse. Because there's so much good he could have done with £10,000 rather than that. There's so much good he could have done with it. Because he was never, in the first place, he was never ever going to stop David Beckham, right, from earning 10 million quid. I mean, that's just ridiculous. And I guarantee you that if you look into Joe Lycett, I guarantee if you look hard enough into him, right, guaranteed, right, that he would have played probably in some arena that's owned by the Qataris. Did you know, that you're not allowed in Saudi Arabia with a right-hand drive car? Look, that's a fucking liberty, right? How dare you, right? In fact, I say, do you know, right, how many, right, Saudi vehicles, left-hand drive, I've seen in this country? They're all over the place. Well, say all over the place, mainly up the West End. But there's loads of them. Loads. All very good cars, of course. Your top cars, because I saw Bugatti, right? With Saudi number plates on it. So, but that one just struck me really. To think that you in a right-hand drive vehicle cannot enter Saudi Arabia in that car. So how dare you? But they dare. Shamima Begum will appeal against, because remember they've taken away her citizenship. So she's appealing against it now. But just remember that if she was a little white girl, right, she'd have been back in this country a long time ago. Because they'd have said, oh, groomed. Groomed. That's what's happened to her. Because, she was 15 years old when she left this country. 15 years old. Right? So she didn't wake up one morning and say, oh, you know what? I'm going to go and live in a death spot. I want to go and live there, in a caliphate, right, where people are getting their heads chopped off. No, these people was grooming her, right, for 2 or 3 years before they got her over there, right. So imagine, right, she was probably 12 or 13 years old, right, when she started getting groomed by these people. So, and then she's got like an older guy who's telling her that he's madly in love with her. Come over, you live over here. When you hear this girl talking, when they first had her in the place, and she said, she was probably, oh, you come over, you can have a family and all this. That's what she wanted. She's a young girl, right? When she left, she was 15 years old when she left. Right, she was taken across the border, right? From Turkey into I can't remember what country it was now, but she was taken from Turkey into there, right, by a Canadian agent, one of our allies, trafficking 15-year-old girls, right? Because that's what they would say. If she was a little white girl, they say, oh, well, she was trafficked. She was groomed and she was trafficked. That's what they would say. but for her, oh no. As far as they're concerned, she was a big fucking woman when she went, as far as they're concerned. And this country claims it does have a problem with racism. Of course it does. England players will take the knee. Well, they did take the knee before their first game, in Iran. But I think after scoring a goal, what they should do is the gesture, right, to cutting their hair, right, because that's going to piss off the Iran government. Do you know what I mean? If they've done something like that, but that's what they should do, to show solidarity for the women in Iran who they just locked up two actresses over the weekend in Iran for not wearing headscarves. And the reason why I'm going to really enjoy this World Cup is because the head of FIFA said the other day that Europe should apologise, right, for the last 3,000 years, to countries like, to the Middle East countries and, obviously to Africa, to Australia, to America. He said Europe should be apologising for the last 3,000 years. So he's going back before the Romans, right? And they should apologise for the next 3,000 years for the last 3,000 years. And I tend to agree. Because, just look what Europe has been responsible for. Slavery. Holocaust. Apartheid. Now, genocide. Native Americans. Aborigines. Native Canadians. Native New Zealanders. Genocided out. Some of them genocided completely out of existence by the Europeans. Us and the Europeans. So he's absolutely right. The problem is, sometimes, some people say the right thing, right, but for the wrong reason. And sometimes it could be, the wrong person says the right thing. And that's exactly who this guy is. But the point is he's made that point. And, and so much of the European media and, the British media is losing their minds over it. Simply because, he's absolutely correct. And they know he's right. You've got people like, Ron DeSantis, right, who's trying to teach children now, oh no, slavery was like white people trying to help black people out. Right? Next, he's going to say well, we was invited by the Native Americans and then they, all committed suicide in mass. That's probably going to be his next thing. Right? So it's true. What he said, what the head of FIFA, what he said is true. He's just not the right person to say it. But what he said is absolutely true because the amount, right, of killings and, of slaughter that Europe has been responsible for. There's no way that anybody else anywhere in the world has been more responsible, right, for the amount of death that the Europeans have caused. Just no way at all that anybody else anywhere in the world, right? You could put right, Saddam Hussein and Gaddafi. You put all of them together. All of them you could put together. All of them, right? And they wouldn't come close to what the Europeans have done. Close. So he's absolutely correct about what Europe have done, and it's it really is just the truth, unfortunately. Michael Gove will be asking all councils, to telling them they need to act a lot better. Especially, this is to do with the young, the young lad dying of mold poisoning. So, he's writing to all the councils to let them know that they've got to do a lot better. Black people are 4 times more likely to be homeless in the UK. I wonder if that's before we was preaching to the Qataris. See, it's just but this is how this country is. It's been, it's been like this for quite a while. People have been warned there will be an extra long wait for NHS services after 12 years of the Conservatives. After 12 years of Conservatives who have just destroyed everything in this country. Oh, look at this time. It's already 30 minutes. And another failing from the police. Young lady murdered in Ilford. Probably could have been saved because the guy had had a recall to prison. Right, he had been out of prison for 9 days or something like that, and he had had a recall 2 days before he murdered this young lady in Ilford. I think she was practicing to be a solicitor. So he was. But you know something, I've read a little bit about this guy on the weekend. What's his name? Jordan McSweeney, and her name is Zara Alina. But Jordan McSweeney, 29 years old. Judges described him as a danger to women. But his criminal record didn't suggest that. Because his criminal record, he had on there some burglary, assault, car theft, and I think minor criminality. Right now, it didn't have anything about stalking or purposely going out and assaulting women or anything like that in it. So, although the police have, obviously the police have messed up, right? And by not getting hold of him when he had his recall to prison. But they probably didn't think it was like a real urgency, as in this man's a danger to women, so we have to go out there and make sure that we get him tonight, right now, So I don't know. And then we've got in Birmingham 2 Asian young ladies murdered. And they believe it was due to racial intolerance by the police. Because I heard one of the phone calls that this young lady was making, and you could hear the fright within her. She was really, really scared. You could hear it within her that she's really, really scared. And it was just like a sort of patronising tone coming back from the police operator. It was like really just you heard it was just a really patronising tone. And obviously it was clear that she was speaking to an Asian woman on the phone. Right, but it's just like, and then her and her friend got murdered by this woman's husband. So a lot of people are blaming the police for that. And girls from a secondary school went to Eton College or school, whatever it's called. I think they call it Eton College, isn't it? Right. For a speech by Nigel Farage, only to be racially abused and a lot of sexist chants and a lot of misogynistic views from the young men in the school. But you see, you've got to remember, that these because these are secondary girls' schools, so they go to just normal comprehensive secondary school, right? So these guys who go to Eton, these people are all below them as far as they're concerned. That's what you've got to remember. They're all just completely below them. So, yeah, remember they are the future leaders of this country, and they all of them will try and get into the Bullingdon Club somehow. So at which stage they'll have to insert their bell end into the head of a pig, right, and burn a £50 note in front of a human person who is homeless. So when you're talking about people like that, of course, what would you expect? Can't expect anything. You can't expect anything less from those type of people. There's so much stories, and that's why I'm already 34 minutes in. Well, we're on to Brexit, huh? Don't blame Brexit for our economic woes, says the Telegraph. Says the Telegraph, you really still going? I don't know. But then again, most news agents, they get about 4 or 5 copies of the Telegraph, right? So you have to say, who gives a shit what the Telegraph thinks? Right? Because these, they're one of Boris Johnson's biggest backers. But, I was a news agent, and I have to tell you, right, there wasn't really that much copies of the Telegraph being sold, but I suppose it might be different areas. but there wasn't that much copies of the Telegraph. I mean, they used to get never used to get nowhere near more than 10 copies of the Telegraph. So I don't know who the hell read that. He's got a lot of copies of the Daily Mail, but not Telegraph. But anyway, that's what they're saying. They're saying that, it's not because of Brexit why Britain has gone through these economic woes. Don't blame Brexit. The UK economy has been made worse by an own goal. Things like Brexit, Liz Truss. You see how they just bring Liz Truss straight. And a lot of this is 12. I know she's come along and done £50 million worth of damage, but a lot of this is, the 12 years worth of crap what these people have put us through. Because, could the Tories say to us, well, you know what, 12 years after us coming in, your lives are much better. Can the Tories say that? No. They would say it. They would probably say that barefaced. They'll probably say, oh, no, your life's much better. Of course it is. And we're looking and saying, no, it's not. And they'll be like, of course it is. It's much better. So, because, I just see Rishi Sunak just on stage, just lying his head off about something to do with Brexit. Just completely lying about it. I thought to myself, you know what? You don't know where to go with these people. But anyway, David Davis has said there has been no economic benefits to Brexit. He was Mr. Brexit. I'm sure wasn't he the Brexit minister at one stage, right? So he's now just comes no economic benefits. So now remember last week you had George Eustace who come out and said, well, this deal is a load of crap for us. And now David Davis, no, they're not economic. So a few of them are starting to, but these are all backbenchers. Right? And when they're in the cabinet, they'll be telling you how good Brexit really is. And with its tail between its legs on the weekend, Britain was putting about this Swiss-style deal. Right now, as we speak, the football is on, but also the ERG, the English Racist Group, are meeting right now. Because of that story. So Rishi Sunak had to backtrack because, that's what they do. They put the feelers out. And so much people are saying, oh, yeah, Swiss model. Swiss model, obviously, has got freedom of movement. But the EU don't like the Swiss model. Because the Swiss model is it's not in the customs union and it's not in a single market. But they've got a lot of, little deals. But what literally puts them in the customs union and the single market. But I don't think they're officially in it. But they have to obviously have the 4 freedoms, which obviously includes freedom of movement, which was the big thing what these people made us lose our freedom of movement over. But they just put the story out there to see how it make people feel. And people like Nigel Farage have started getting straight on it. Look at them trying to take on, and for Rishi Sunak and Jeremy Hunt, obviously they must really know that this country needs to go back. It needs to get into at least the customs union minimum. Right, but obviously that will entail the 4 freedoms. So so that's going to be the big thing. But no, it's there's no way. Yeah, they put the story out, but right now they've had to back off on it. But if Keir Starmer had any sense, he would start running with this and saying, yeah, look, we want to go into the single market. Right, or the customs union. That's what Keir Starmer will start saying from now. But Keir Starmer's a damn Egypt and is Tory light. So always remember that. Anyway, look, guys, I'm 18 minutes over, but it is Monday today, and I've been distracted by the footy. Anyway, look, I'm going to bow out of here, my friends. This, my friends, is by any means necessary. I'm the MC John Ribs. It was very nice to speak to you guys. Comments below.